Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you the basics of Abyss Studio. Abyss Studio is our software for creating recordings for Purgatory Props controllers. It is currently in public beta release, so it might have some bugs and it is not fully featured. It is currently supported on Windows, Mac, and Linux. When you first launch the software, you're going to be greeted with this splash screen. This has some basic options to get started. New project, open project, SD card open, and connect device will be released later. New project is going to create a blank project for you. If you go in and save that project, you'll use open project to reload it. SD card open is if you make a recording on the controller, you can export that to the SD card using the buttons on the controller, and this will allow you to open that recording in Abyss Studio. To show you here, I'm just going to start a new project, and this is what you will see. When we support more controllers, because currently it only supports the Octo, you'll be prompted for what controller you want to create the project for, but since there's just one, it automatically creates an Octo for you. Now, the basics and terminology we use in Abyss Studio is the device. The device is your prop controller. The project is a group of prop controllers. If you watch the Amon Octo video, you know that you can link Octos together using the Abyss bus port. So you may want to create those two recordings in one project so you can add more than one device to your project. And then a recording is ambient, input 1 or input 2, or whatever can be triggered on your controller. So we can come up here and give our project a name. And then if you have more than one device, you can also name your device. So if you have main prop and secondary prop, you can name your device that way. And then down here, this is the timeline. So this is where you're going to control your outputs and do all your animation. We see we have a red line here. That red line indicates the end of the animation. So if you right click anywhere, you can set the length of your animation with the red cursor here. If you say have it here and you click somewhere else to turn on an output, it'll automatically adjust the end animation to be to the new spot. So the basics is you click and drag here to turn on the outputs. If you want to undo this, you can just click and drag. It always does the opposite of where you clicked. So if you click in a gray area, it's going to turn it on. If you click in an orange area, it's going to turn it off. Outputs 7 and 8 on the Octo are able to do analog. So they're not just on or off. They can be somewhere in between. And Abyss Studio allows you to set that as well. Over here on the outputs, we have an effects option that's coming later and output settings. So in the output settings, we can give it a name, something like head, and we can even change the color. So sometimes it can get a little crazy if you have all this orange, so you can change the color of that output for easy viewing. Over here, we have this lock icon. Doing that turns this red and prevents any editing accidentally of that output. Output 7 and 8 also have a different setting. You can change it to digital. Now it's important to know that if you have analog values like this and you convert it to digital, that's going to be a one-way operation. So it's going to convert it to anything that was over 0 is now on. And we notice if we go back, we don't have those preserved analog values since they were converted to digital. Up here we have device settings. We can see we have global volume and all the different options that the Octo has that you can read about in the Octo user manual. Down here, since the Octo supports DMX, we have the option to add a DMX channel. And again, you can give that a special name. Set the DMX channel, also known as slot, and as well as color. And then so that gives us an analog DMX channel. If you want to upload audio, you can do so using this button, or it's under device. You have all these options under the device menu as well. So I just have our typical sample audio here. We can see it's about 3 seconds long. Down here we can zoom in and out if we need. We're just going to zoom in. Let's set the animation length to that. So if you notice, all this is hidden. It's still there. It's there until you save. So if you do File, Save As, and then reload that file, none of this stuff will be here. It'll end where the red line is. And now the next thing is the green cursor. If we single click up on the timeline header or in the audio, down here it's a middle click. Since single click turns on and off the outputs, we have to do a middle click. This green cursor can be used for alignment as well as playback. So if we want to start playback from here, we can click play pause and we'll hear our audio and see the cursor advance through the program.
Don't panic.
And then once it gets done, it goes back to where it started. So that is the green cursor. Now when we're ready to send this to our Octo, currently the only way is SD card export. So if you click this button, or again it's under device, you'll be prompted for your SD card. So here we have just a basic Octo SD card. And it'll save everything to that SD card, including the audio, is this. So we see we have this Abyss Studio file, and you might not see this on your computer depending on your settings, but this keeps copies of the output names, the output colors and stuff. So if you load from SD card on that splash screen, it will remember all of those options. And these PC8 files are the files that will be loaded onto the Octo. So when you put this SD card into your Octo, it'll load this program and delete these files so they won't be on the SD card. Now, for example, let's keep this same configuration. When you export on the Octo using the buttons, it'll save the recordings to the controller using these exact file formats. So if you wanted to open that up, you can do SD card open, select your SD card, and we can see it'll load that exact program up just as it was saved on the controller. So that's the basics on using Abyss Studio. If you try the beta and you have any problems, you can do help and contact support, and that'll open up a form where you can email us with your issue, and it'll also be able to include a copy of your program so we can see that. Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoy Abyss Studio.